There are quite a few people in this world who make it difficult for us to believe that they actually do exist on this same planet and are so bizarre. For instance, there's a Vietnamese insomniac who has had no sleep at all for about 3 decades, but still, he is good. There is also a man who fought for 19 years just to prove that he is alive. If you already are keen on learning about them and can't wait, then stay tuned because these are the 15 human oddities that will blow your mind. Number 15, America's Siamese twins. Mary and Margaret drew a lot of public attention from the moment they were born in 1912 in Massachusetts. Conjoined yet healthy, intelligent, and joyful, their lives made headlines long before they ever stepped into a spotlight. By age 14, they launched a polished vaudeville act, singing, dancing, and playing piano in perfect sync. Billed as America's Siamese twins, they toured with Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, and Cole Brothers, performing across the U.S. and Europe. Crowds marveled not just at their physical condition, but at the grace and harmony they displayed on stage. Their voices blended naturally, their movements fluid, a seamless collaboration between two souls sharing one body. By their 30s, they stepped away from performance life and returned home to run a small shop selling handmade crafts. They found peace in a quiet life once thought impossible. Mary and Margaret lived until 1967, not remembered for their condition, but for transforming it into a career, a bond, and a legacy. Number 14. The Marked Man. Jack Dracula's face became a roadmap of ink, a living canvas covered head to toe in tattoos. Born Martin Semnak in 1935 in Brooklyn, his obsession began in 1954 on Coney Island, where he got his first tattoo. By year's end, nearly 30 more covered his skin. Eventually, his body bore over 400 intricate designs across his chest, limbs, and face. His transformation drew him to sideshow stages. He performed for Hubert's Museum, Ringling Brothers, Dave Rosen's Wonderland in Coney Island, and many others. Sailor towns like New London, Connecticut, embraced him as a walking marvel. His striking image even made it into the 1976 cult film The Witch Who Came from the Sea. Some were disturbed, others mesmerized, but to Jack, the ink wasn't shock value. It was selfhood. When he passed in 2011, he left behind more than memories. He left behind a face the world couldn't forget, a legacy tattooed in bold devotion. Number 13. The Wild Dancing South African Bushman. Audiences in the early 1900s expected wild men to growl, leap, and frighten. But Clicquot brought something real. Born Frans Tabosch in 1857 and descended from the Khoisan people of South Africa, he carried the rhythm and soul of traditional dance. His raw talent caught the eye of Captain Hepston, who became his manager and brought him abroad. By 1913, Clicquot was dancing in England and France, and by 1917, he'd landed at Coney Island's Dreamland and the Ringling Brothers sideshow. Promoters dressed him in leopard skins and invented wild tales, claiming he slept beside chimpanzees. The name Clicquot came from the clicking sounds of his native language. But beneath the costume and fiction, his movements held cultural weight. His dance wasn't an act, it was heritage in motion. While others mimicked savagery, he brought authentic artistry. He performed until 1939 and died a year later. Yet Clicquot's rhythm still echoes. Number 12. The Lizard Man. Eric Sprague once lived a completely ordinary life. He held a bachelor's degree in philosophy and was pursuing a PhD at the University of Albany when he abruptly decided to reinvent himself entirely. Through extreme body modification, he transformed into something resembling a humanoid reptile, the kind conspiracy theorists obsess over. His tongue was surgically split to resemble a snake's, and his entire body was tattooed in green scale-like patterns. He had subdermal ridges implanted above his eyes, and his teeth were filed to sharp points. Why do it? According to Eric, it was simple. I'm a huge Godzilla fan, so I became the awesome movie monster I wanted to see. Rather than embracing destruction, Eric used his transformation as a performance art platform. Appearing on television shows and live events, he now tours under the stage name The Lizard Man. Rather than hide his appearance, he celebrates it, turning himself into a walking creature of spectacle, fully by choice. So, what do you think about him? Number 11. The Chappelle Twins. Well, now this one is a bit heartbreaking. Laurie and George Chappelle lived a life few could begin to imagine. Born in 1961 in Pennsylvania, they were conjoined at the forehead, facing opposite directions, yet formed completely separate identities. Laurie quietly worked in a hospital, while George, born Dory before transitioning, pursued a music career. Though spina bifida left George's legs unusable, he sat on a stool pulled by Laurie and performed country songs that won awards, and even landed a spot in the Farrelly Brothers' Stuck on You. Together, they appeared on shows like Maury and Howard Stern, and acted in an episode of Nip Tuck. For their first 24 years, they were institutionalized, wrongly labeled intellectually disabled, until they proved otherwise. After that, their voices, wit, and independence did the talking. They lived until age 62, becoming the oldest surviving conjoined twins in history. Their journey wasn't defined by tragedy. It was a powerful example of individuality, perseverance, and shared strength. Number 10. Yvonne and Yvette MacArthur. From the moment Yvonne and Yvette entered the world in 1949, doctors dismissed their chances. They were born conjoined at the top of the head, and from the beginning were told they'd never walk, think clearly, or live freely. But the sisters shattered every expectation. They developed above-average intelligence and walked independently. For 6 months, they briefly joined a sideshow with the Royal American Circus to help pay soaring medical expenses. After that, they swapped tents for gospel halls, touring as singers across the country. Their harmonies echoed their shared life, two voices rising from one body. By 1987, they lived in their own apartment, fully independent and defying every prediction made at birth. Tragedy came in 1992 when both sisters passed suddenly and were discovered 2 weeks later. But their story isn't one of pity. It's one of triumph, resilience, and grace. They lived with purpose and dignity, carving out a life they were never supposed to have. They didn't just survive, they soared. Number 9. The Checkered Man. Matt Gaughan, famously dubbed the Checkered Man, has covered 99% of his body in a stark black and white checkerboard design. Even the whites of his eyes, tongue, and intimate areas aren't spared. Only the soles of his feet and the palms of his hands remain untouched. Born with Poland syndrome, a condition causing underdeveloped muscles and potential organ issues, Matt underwent numerous surgeries and endured years of body-related insecurity. To reclaim his confidence, he began tattooing over his scars, which soon became a full-body commitment. What began as camouflage grew into a bold personal statement. Today, he holds the Guinness World Record as the world's most tattooed man. Rather than spend his life in sideshows, Matt built a career as a professional chef. Still, his striking appearance has landed him on numerous TV programs, where his story continues to grab attention. In his words, the ink gave him power. In ours, he's a walking statement, and clearly unforgettable. Now let's move to Number 8. Lucio and Simplicio Godino. Lucio and Simplicio, twin brothers from the Philippines, spent their childhood beneath the circus spotlight. Born in 1908, they were first exhibited at Coney Island, until authorities intervened, deeming it inhumane. Without guardians, the twins were placed under the care of the Philippine ambassador to the U.S., who ensured they received an education. Determined and curious, they learned music, dance, and sports, becoming well-rounded entertainers. In 1929, both married identical twin sisters from the Philippines, a marriage that turned heads and made headlines. Together, they created a vaudeville act built on music, comedy, and movement. For a time, they thrived, but in 1936, Lucio caught pneumonia and died. Doctors attempted what had never been done, surgical separation. The operation succeeded, but Simplicio died days later from meningitis. Their lives embodied ambition and resilience, and their deaths carried a deep note of sorrow. The Godino twins remain symbols of talent, hope, and the unpredictable nature of fate. Number 7. The Enigma. Circus history is full of tattooed performers, but few ever went as far as Paul Lawrence. A musician turned performer, Paul co-founded the Jim Rose Circus in Seattle, which frequently toured with the Lollapalooza Festival. Back then, he performed under the name Slug, entertaining crowds by swallowing live insects. When the shock faded, he knew it was time to evolve. Reinventing both his act and his identity, Paul received horn-like facial implants, reshaped his ears, and had his entire body tattooed in blue jigsaw puzzle pieces. He re-emerged as the Enigma. With his new persona, he found global recognition. He's been featured on Ripley's Believe It or Not and holds the Guinness World Record for the most jigsaw tattoos on a single person. But he didn't stop at sideshows. The Enigma still tours today, performing live music, engaging with fans, and appearing at tattoo conventions around the world. He is a good guy. Number 6. Paul Desmuke, the Judge. Paul never needed arms to own the spotlight. Born in 1876 in Atascosa County, he mastered life using only his feet, writing, playing the violin, and even hurling knives with deadly precision. His wife, Mae Simmons, stood fearlessly as his target during knife acts, trusting his skill completely. Paul performed with the Al G. Barnes Circus, Zach Miller's 101 Ranch Wild West show, and even appeared in Ripley's Believe It or Not at Chicago's Century of Progress Expo. He made his mark on the silent screen, too, starring in The Unknown and The Sideshow, 1928, where his talents left audiences speechless. But Paul's legacy didn't stop at entertainment. He returned home to become a justice of the peace, earning the nickname The Judge. Watching him sign legal papers with his toes, just as easily as others used their hands, was nothing short of awe-inspiring. Paul died in 1949, remembered as a man who turned limitation into command. Number 5. The Stalking Cat. Dennis Avner, a Navy veteran and former computer programmer, spent his life transforming into the animal he believed was his spiritual guardian, the tiger. Of Native American descent, he adopted the name Stalking Cat as part of his journey. Avner underwent dozens of surgeries, including facial implants to build feline contours and whisker anchors, pointed ear modifications, sharpened claws, tattooed stripes, and even dental work that gave him razor-sharp fangs. Special contact lenses completed the look. His transformation was more than aesthetic. It was a spiritual expression. He appeared in documentaries, television features, and live shows in Las Vegas, becoming widely known as the Cat Man. However, Avner also faced intense public judgment and struggled with body dysmorphia. In 2012, he tragically died by suicide at the age of 54. Though often sensationalized, his story remains a rare and deeply personal example of identity, transformation, and the complex line between inner truth and physical expression. Number 4. Alzoria Lewis and Johanna Dickens. On Coney Island stages from the 1930s through the 1950s, two women appeared as sisters, though in truth they weren't related. Alzoria Lewis, born in Brooklyn in 1912, had severely shortened limbs, 6 fingers on each hand, 6 toes on one foot, and only one on the other. She often crawled on stage, billed as the Turtle Girl, Walrus Girl, or Pig Woman, identities stitched together from fiction and pity. Her backstory was framed as a Southern tragedy, but she grew up only blocks away from the boardwalk. Married twice, she sometimes used the name Alzoria Green. Her longtime partner in performance, Johanna Dickens, a dwarf likely born in the 1920s, was promoted as the Bear Girl. Together, they played roles crafted by sideshow promoters, a blend of myth, curiosity, and exploitation. What lasts today isn't their fabricated personas, but the image of 2 women who performed and left their mark on the strange history of Coney Island. Number 3. William Dirks. William grew up in the quiet woods of Alabama, carrying one of the rarest facial deformities ever recorded. A deep cleft split his face, paired with frontonasal dysplasia, giving him the unsettling appearance of 2 noses. Townspeople whispered, strangers stared, and most kept their distance. But William refused to vanish into shame. As a teenager, he embraced his look and found a stage in the sideshow world. Performing at Hubert's Museum in New York, he accentuated his look by painting a 3rd eye on his forehead, fully embracing the spectacle. In the 1960s, he earned $100 a week, not just surviving, but thriving. More importantly, he found companionship with Mildred, known as the alligator-skinned woman, and married her. Together, they built a quiet life, away from pity or ridicule. His face may have startled onlookers, but his life told a different story, of courage, love, and the determination to live boldly in the skin he was given. Number 2. Space Cowboy. Growing up in Australia, Shane Hultgren learned to ride a unicycle and often rolled through his neighborhood, stunning passers-by. Tossed coins turned into inspiration, and soon he began honing street stunts full-time. Known now as Space Cowboy, Chaney has earned not 1, but 5 Guinness World Records for outrageous and physically demanding feats, juggling chainsaws while unicycling, lifting the most weight using hooks through his eye sockets, sword swallowing underwater, throwing the most knives at a target in 60 seconds, and extinguishing the most blowtorches with his tongue. It's a lineup that sounds fictional, but Chain does it live. His act blends circus spectacle with daredevil precision. With his wiry frame, wild hair, and high pain tolerance, he's become one of the most recognized modern circus performers. Few dare to attempt his records, and even fewer come close. Space Cowboy continues to push his limits, redefining what the human body can do and what audiences are willing to watch. Number 1. Fakir Musafar. Now here's a story that'll bend your brain. Imagine a man hanging midair by metal hooks pierced into his flesh, not out of agony, but in pursuit of transcendence. That was Fakir Musafar, born Roland Loomis in 1930. Before he became a pioneer of body modification, he was an engineer, dance teacher, soldier, and ad man. But his heart belonged to ancient spiritual rituals he first encountered growing up in South Dakota. Privately, for decades, he tattooed, pierced, and suspended himself, chasing euphoric states. At 47, he stepped into the spotlight, adopting the name Fakir Musafar and introducing audiences to the modern primitive. He lectured at universities, performed in sideshows, and catalyzed an underground movement that later seeped into mainstream fashion. For him, the body wasn't just a vessel. It was a sacred tool for transformation. When he died in 2018, he didn't just leave behind performances. He left behind an entire culture shaped by his fearless devotion. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you very soon.